Well, thank you all for having me here today. As Sheila mentioned, there's a list of people who couldn't be with us. So starting Saturday afternoon when we were here to install the sign, round about until an hour ago, I was getting emails from Dr. Van West. Make sure you talk about the history of the bridge corner. Okay. And I got an email from Lee Curtis. Well, make sure you bring up the Eagle Scout project. I said, okay. So I've prepared what should be, according to everybody who's not here today, about an hour and a half lecture. So sit tight, and let me prepare my major document here for you. That being said, and all joking aside, I have spent, from Saturday afternoon until about an hour ago, about 1,300 miles driving through the great state of Tennessee. Every single stop, save for one, which was a little rural, had people out enjoying Tennessee's history and heritage, and in most part, Civil War trail signs. All the downtowns we went through were full of people, variety of different ages, enjoying arts and culture and music, and of course, reading the historical markers. So, having spent this whirlwind week full of cold and rain and mud, I'm pleased to report that tourism, and especially history here in Tennessee, is alive and well. With that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce what we think is the 378th Tennessee Civil War trail sign here in the state. It's hard to keep up because we move so fast. For those of you who do not know about Civil War trails itself now spans about 1,550 sites, 5 states and 2 random counties in Pennsylvania, and about 620,000 square miles. So I would like to argue to my board that we're the largest open-air museum in the world. Thanks to this young man here today, Bluff City is now on those maps that make their way to AAA centers, to individuals who request information about Civil War sites, to Japan, Germany, France, and all through Europe. They're fascinated by the American Civil War. The one thing, though, and we're just having a discussion a few moments ago about this, is Lucas, while an exceptional young man in what he has done here today for Bluff City, is not unique. I'm sorry to tell you that. In fact, of all these Civil War trail sites, of all these different places that I've visited in the last year at the helm of the program, the age of our average visitor is, no offense to the majority of us standing here, a little bit more in Lucas's age. So he might not be behind the wheel, he is definitely directing the family vacation. And believe it or not, when they get to these sites, they want to experience something they can't get at home. They want to experience something that they can't get on Facebook or on Twitter. They want to experience a unique landscape, something they can't get on the internet. People my age, they travel around to visit the newest winery, brewery, or distillery. They go out to a local restaurant that uses food brought from a local farm because the things that are on the bypass don't reflect the community and the culture that they have. This is the future of tourism. This is also the future of public history. It's Lucas's age. Folks a little bit younger or older than me, which also means that the future is very bright. So for us, as we stand here today and we think about how this program has manifested and where it goes, Lucas has built for you today not only a beautiful interpretive sign that is very evocative, the first sentence makes you look up at the piers of the railroad bridge, but also something that gives back to the community as a whole. Civil War trails, all of these sites, all these square miles, the whole goal is to connect people to the lesser-known sites and the great campaigns, to put them in the car so they can literally follow in the footsteps of those soldiers, the citizens, and those slaves who came before us. Because when you're on the ground with them, and when you can look up and experience the event they do, it becomes so much more personal. And this is what the young man has built for you today. The other thing that he might not know that he has built for everybody is what Civil War Trails will do for the community. The program itself, as I said, has a huge amount of marketing behind it. And we ship all this literature and this distribution, which brings people to the county and to the city, leading me to another email that I was supposed to unpack for you. Talk about the economic benefits of tourism, they told me to do. Well, I won't go into that today, but needless to say, when people do travel, as many of you do for reenactments or simply out to dinner, you may be inclined to follow the Little Red Bugle to the next stop. And of course, you'll stop at the local restaurant and you'll enjoy perhaps a bed and breakfast. And that's really for those of you who are involved in tourism or municipal planning or government, want to get out of this history. It needs to be sustainable, not only exciting, but something that gives back to the community. And that's exactly what the young man has provided for you today. Lastly, and to build off of what Sheila said, he took this very seriously. In fact, so much so that our Civil War Trails historian, Dr. Van West, Sheila herself, some of us said, okay, the young man's on fire. It reads good, the narrative's great, the history's perfect, but you know, we think we found a picture we want to put on there. You know where I'm going with this. I went ahead and I drafted it all up and I put it on the sign. And I sent it over to Lucas and I said, Lucas, take a peek at this and let me know what you think. And I got an email back. He said, I'd like to talk with you about that sign if you don't mind. Give me a call. And he calls and he says, you know, it's a really great picture, but it's the wrong bridge. And with those words, he had stopped an archivist at the Library of Congress, the largest open-air museum, the Sullivan County Records Department, Middle Tennessee State, because that's the dedication. That's what we got out of this young man, and it's quite impressive. But the Civil War Trails program itself, you'll notice, it's not commemorative. It doesn't hold anybody on a pilaster. It does not memorialize any one side or any one person. It's purely interpretive. And that's one reason I believe we constantly rise above all the politics and the fray in the world when you discuss the American Civil War. So what we have here today is something that talks about the folks in blue and those in gray, the folks who were seeking their freedoms and in their independence, and it does it on an even playing field because really when you boil everything down to that, each one of them, for their own reasons, left their home or tried to find their own home as very true patriots. And that's exactly what we have today. That being said, before I forget, I'm going to introduce young Mr. Triplett here in a moment. We'll go ahead and we'll cut the ribbon, and then I'll ask the captain to pull his mixed company together, as we'll say, behind the sign for a salute. With that, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Lucas Triplett.